There is a certain type of man that the moment he walks into any room, there's a subtle shift in energy that he can't help but notice. And trust me, women notice it far more than you realize. It's not because you're the loudest in the room. It's not because you're showing off your material things. The more attractive you are, the more intimidating you will naturally come across, which may make women feel a little shy around you, or even have a hard time knowing what to say, because her mind has already placed you in a category most men never reach. And like I said, this happens before you even say a word. Hello, I'm Mary Smith, host of the Mindful Senior Living YouTube channel. And today we're going to gently unpack something that many men feel, but rarely understand. Why is it that the very qualities that make a man deeply attractive can also make him intimidating? And more importantly, how can you carry that presence in a way that creates connection, not distance? Now, let me speak to you directly for a moment. If you've ever walked into a room and felt people notice you, but not approach you, if you've ever sensed interest in someone's eyes, but also hesitation, if you've ever wondered, why does it feel like there's a wall between me and others, even when I'm doing nothing wrong, then this conversation is for you. Because what you're experiencing is not rejection. It's not failure. In many cases, it's misunderstood power. You see, the first place we need to begin is not with what you say, but with how you carry yourself. Human beings are incredibly sensitive to energy. In fact, research in psychology shows that first impressions are formed in mere milliseconds. Before a single word is spoken, your posture, your facial expression, your eye contact, and even your emotional state are already communicating something very powerful. When a man moves through the world with a quiet awareness of his own worth, when he doesn't need to prove, impress, or seek approval, that creates a kind of psychological tension in others. Not negative tension, but curiosity, intrigue. A question that forms silently in the mind. Who is he? And this is where many men misunderstand attraction. They believe it's about doing more, saying more, showing more. But true attraction, especially from a woman's perspective, often comes from what is not immediately revealed. It's in the pauses, the restraint, the calm presence of someone who is fully at ease within himself. Think about the last time you met someone who didn't seem desperate for attention. They weren't trying to dominate the conversation. They weren't nervously filling every silence. There was a steadiness to them, a groundedness. That kind of presence is rare today, and because it's rare, it stands out. Now here's the paradox, and it's important you understand this deeply. True confidence can feel intimidating to others, not because there's anything wrong with it, but because it reflects something back to them. It highlights insecurities they may not even be aware of. When someone is deeply self-assured, it can unconsciously make others question their own sense of worth, and this is especially true in attraction. A woman may feel drawn to you, but at the same time, she may feel unsure of how to engage with you. Her mind may start asking questions. Is he interested? Am I good enough? What do I even say? And so, instead of moving closer, she hesitates. This is why you might notice something interesting. The more centered and composed you become, the less people initiate with you, but at the same time, the more they observe you, the more they think about you, the more they remember you. Now let's go a little deeper into what creates this kind of presence. It's not just about standing tall or dressing well, although those things do matter. It's about alignment. When your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions are in harmony, there is a consistency in your behavior that others can feel. You're not trying to be someone, you simply are. And this being is what creates that quiet magnetism. For example, imagine a man walking into a cafe. He orders his coffee, makes brief eye contact with the barista, smiles gently, and asks how her day is going. Not in a rehearsed or exaggerated way, but sincerely. He listens to her response. He's present. He's not distracted by his phone. He's not rushing to get out of the interaction. In that small moment, he leaves an impression. Not because he did something extraordinary, but because he was fully there. Now compare that to someone who is constantly checking their phone, speaking quickly, avoiding eye contact, or overcompensating by trying too hard to be charming. The difference is subtle, but psychologically, it's immense. Presence is felt. And when a man has that presence, it creates what I like to call emotional weight. His words carry more meaning. His silence carries even more. But here's where many men unintentionally lose that power. They begin to overcompensate. Perhaps they feel the tension in the interaction and mistake it for disinterest. So they start talking more, explaining more, trying to win the moment. They overshare. They become slightly anxious. And in doing so, they break the very energy that was creating attraction in the first place. Now, let me give you a simple exercise you can begin practicing today. The next time you're in a conversation, especially with someone you're attracted to, pay attention to your pace. Slow it down. Speak a little less than you normally would. Allow moments of silence. Hold eye contact just a second longer. And most importantly, notice your internal state. Are you trying to impress, or are you simply expressing? This small shift can completely transform how others perceive you. Because when you're not chasing approval, you become someone others want to understand. And understanding leads to curiosity. Curiosity leads to attraction. Now, another important layer to this is emotional self-control. A man who is easily shaken, easily reactive, or constantly seeking validation cannot hold that grounded presence. Even if he is physically attractive, that instability becomes visible very quickly. You may have seen this before. A man who looks great, dresses well, carries himself confidently at first, but the moment he begins speaking, there's nervousness. He talks too much, he tries too hard, he loses composure, and suddenly, the attraction fades. Why does this happen? Because attraction is not sustained by appearance alone. It is sustained by emotional stability. When you are in control of your mind, when you are not driven by fear, insecurity, or the need for external validation, you create safety. And paradoxically, that safety allows attraction to deepen. Now, I want you to reflect on something honestly. Are you someone who waits for life to happen, or are you someone who actively creates it? Because this question sits at the core of confidence. A man who is moving towards something meaningful, who has direction, purpose, and intention, naturally develops a different kind of energy. He doesn't need to convince anyone of his worth, because he experiences it daily through his actions. And that energy is unmistakable. It shows in the way you walk, the way you speak, the way you listen, the way you respond to challenges. And yes, women notice all of it, even when they don't say it out loud. So if you've ever felt like your presence creates distance instead of connection, I want you to understand something clearly. It's not something you need to shrink. It's something you need to refine. Because intimidation, when understood correctly, is not a barrier. It's an invitation for others to rise to your level of presence or to quietly admire you from a distance. And as we continue exploring this together, you're going to start seeing that attraction is far less about what you add and far more about what you remove. The need to prove, the need to impress, the need to be liked by everyone. Because the moment you release those, something very powerful happens. You become unforgettable. Now let's take this a step deeper, because understanding that your presence can feel intimidating is only the surface. The real transformation begins when you learn how to channel that presence in a way that creates warmth without losing your edge. You see, one of the most misunderstood ideas about attraction is that you must choose between being approachable or being powerful. But the truth is, the most compelling men embody both. They have a grounded strength, yet there's an emotional accessibility that invites people in rather than keeping them at a distance. And this is where emotional intelligence becomes your greatest advantage. A man who is aware of how he makes others feel without abandoning himself in the process becomes incredibly magnetic. Because now, instead of simply walking into a room and being observed, you begin creating experiences. Subtle, meaningful moments that people remember long after the interaction ends. Let me give you a very real example. Imagine you're in a social setting, maybe a gathering, a cafe, or even a quiet bookstore. You notice a woman glancing at you more than once. There's interest, but also hesitation. Now, most men in this moment either do nothing or they approach with too much intensity, trying to immediately impress. But a man who understands his presence does something different. He doesn't rush. He doesn't overthink. He acknowledges the moment with calm awareness. Maybe it's a brief smile. Maybe it's a simple, "Hey, how's your day going?" said with genuine curiosity, not expectation. And then he allows the moment to breathe. This is important because attraction doesn't grow in pressure. It grows in space. When you give someone space to feel, to respond, to come toward you at their own pace, You remove the pressure that often causes people to shut down. And suddenly, that intimidation begins to soften into intrigue. And that intrigue begins to open the door to connection. Now, here's something I want you to really sit with. Not every woman who feels intimidated by you will act on her attraction. Some will admire you from a distance. Some will feel drawn to you, but talk themselves out of approaching. And some may even come across as disinterested, when in reality, they're simply unsure of how to engage with you. And if you don't understand this, you might misinterpret these signals. You might assume she's not interested, when the truth is, she's uncertain. This is why awareness is everything. Instead of reacting to what you see on the surface, begin observing the subtleties. Is she stealing glances? Is her body language open, even if her words are minimal? Is there a slight nervousness in her tone? These are often signs not of disinterest, but of heightened awareness. And that awareness is frequently triggered by attraction mixed with intimidation. Now let's talk about something that will completely change the way you show up in conversations. Restraint. In a world where everyone is trying to be heard, trying to stand out, trying to prove themselves, restraint is rare. And because it's rare, it becomes incredibly attractive. Restraint doesn't mean being silent or withdrawn. It means choosing your words carefully. It means not feeling the need to fill every gap. It means allowing your presence to do some of the talking for you. When you speak less but with intention, people listen more. When you pause before responding, your words carry weight. When you don't rush to reveal everything about yourself, you create curiosity. And curiosity is one of the strongest drivers of attraction. But here's the balance you must learn. Restraint without warmth can feel cold. Warmth without restraint can feel overwhelming. The goal is to hold both. You maintain your calm, grounded presence, while also allowing moments of genuine human connection to come through. A light smile, a thoughtful question, a moment of shared laughter. These small things soften the intimidation without diminishing your strength. Now I want to address something that many men struggle with, especially in today's world: the need for validation. We live in a time where external approval is constantly being chased, through social media, through attention, through comparison. And slowly, without even realizing it, many men begin measuring their worth based on how others respond to them. But here's the truth: the moment your confidence becomes dependent on someone else's reaction, you lose your center. And when you lose your center, your presence weakens. Because now, instead of being grounded in who you are, you're adjusting yourself based on what you think others want to see. This creates inconsistency, and people feel that. On the other hand, when your sense of worth comes from within, from your actions, your discipline, your values, there is a steadiness to you. You don't need every interaction to go perfectly. You don't need every person to like you. And ironically, that's what makes people more drawn to you. Because you're not trying to take something from the interaction. You're simply experiencing it. Now let me give you a practical shift you can start applying immediately. The next time you enter any social environment, instead of asking yourself, "How do I look?" or "What do people think of me?" ask a different question. How can I bring value to this moment? And value doesn't mean performing or impressing. It can be as simple as being present, listening fully when someone speaks, responding thoughtfully, bringing calm energy into a chaotic environment. When you shift your focus from yourself to the quality of the experience you create, something powerful happens. You stop being self-conscious, and you start being impactful. And this is where intimidation transforms into respect. Because people can feel that you're not there to prove anything. You're there to contribute something. Now let's explore another layer that often goes unnoticed: mystery. There is something deeply attractive about a man who is not immediately understood. Not because he's playing games, but because he is layered. He has depth. He has experiences, thoughts, and emotions that are not all placed on the table at once. And this depth creates a sense of discovery. A woman begins to wonder, what else is there to him? And that question keeps her engaged. But mystery is not about being distant or unavailable. It's about pacing. You reveal yourself gradually. You allow the connection to unfold naturally. You don't rush intimacy, emotional or otherwise. And in doing so, you create a dynamic where attraction can build over time, rather than peak too quickly and fade. Now I want to bring you back to something very important: your internal world. Because everything we've talked about so far, your presence, Your confidence, your restraint, your emotional control, all of it originates from within. If internally you are anxious, uncertain, or constantly seeking approval, that will eventually surface, no matter how well you try to present yourself. But if internally you are grounded, if you trust yourself, if you are comfortable being alone with your own thoughts, that creates a foundation that cannot be easily shaken. And from that foundation, everything else becomes easier. Conversations flow more naturally. Silence feels less uncomfortable. Rejection feels less personal. And attraction becomes a byproduct, not a goal. So I want to ask you something, and I want you to really think about it. When you're alone, with no distractions, no phone, no external noise, how do you feel? Do you feel at ease, or do you feel the need to escape that silence? Because your relationship with yourself sets the tone for every interaction you have with others. And the man who is truly comfortable within himself is the man who naturally stands out. Not because he demands attention, but because his presence quietly commands it. And as you continue to develop this, you'll begin to notice a shift. People may not always approach you immediately, but they will notice you. They will remember you, and the right ones will find their way into your space. Not because you chase them, but because your presence gave them a reason to come closer. Now, as we continue, I want to bring your attention to something even more subtle, yet incredibly powerful. And that is the way you handle emotional tension in real time. Because attraction is not built in perfect, smooth conversations. It's built in those small, slightly uncomfortable moments. The pauses, the uncertainty, the unspoken energy between two people. Most men try to escape these moments as quickly as possible. But the man who understands his presence learns to stay in them, and that changes everything. Imagine you're speaking with a woman and there's a brief silence. Instead of rushing to fill it, you simply hold eye contact. Relaxed, calm, present. In that moment, something happens beneath the surface. Her mind becomes more engaged. Her awareness sharpens. That silence, instead of being awkward, becomes charged. This is what people often refer to as chemistry, but in reality, it's emotional attunement combined with confidence. You are not reacting to the moment. You are allowing it. And when you allow moments to unfold naturally, instead of controlling them, you create space for genuine connection. Not forced interaction, but real, felt experience. Now here's where it becomes even more interesting. Many women are not used to this kind of presence. They are used to men who either dominate conversations or shrink within them. So when they encounter a man who is balanced, who can speak with clarity but also sit comfortably in silence, it disrupts their expectations. And anything that disrupts expectation captures attention. But again, this can also create a sense of intimidation because now she can't easily read you. You're not predictable. You're not overly eager. You're not trying to impress her. And that forces her to engage differently. And that engagement is where attraction deepens. Now let's talk about emotional control, but in a more practical, everyday sense. Life is unpredictable. Situations don't always go your way. Conversations don't always unfold perfectly. And in those moments, your reaction reveals far more about you than your appearance ever could. A man who becomes easily frustrated, defensive, or visibly shaken loses that grounded presence very quickly. Not because he's flawed, but because he's no longer centered. On the other hand, a man who can experience discomfort without being controlled by it becomes incredibly attractive. Let me give you a simple, real-life scenario. You're talking to someone you're interested in, and she says something slightly dismissive or teasing. Many men in that moment either become overly serious or try too hard to recover. But a man who is secure within himself can smile, stay relaxed, and respond lightly, or even choose not to react at all. That composure communicates something very powerful. It says, "I am not easily shaken," and that creates both respect and attraction. Now I want to introduce you to a concept that is rarely talked about. Emotional containment. This is your ability to feel emotions without immediately expressing or acting on them. It doesn't mean suppressing how you feel. It means holding space for your emotions without letting them control your behavior. For example, you may feel nervous, but you don't let that nervousness dictate your actions. You may feel excited, but you don't overwhelm the interaction with that energy. You may feel attraction, but you don't rush to express it prematurely. This level of control creates stability, and stability is deeply attractive because it signals maturity, self-awareness, and strength. Now let's shift slightly and talk about something many men overlook, and that is the importance of direction in your life. A man who has no direction, no purpose, no sense of where he's going, often tries to compensate for that lack through external validation. He seeks attention, approval, or attraction as a way to feel something. But a man who is moving towards something meaningful, who has goals, discipline, and intention, carries a completely different energy. He is not looking for someone to complete him. He is already engaged in building something within his own life. And that makes his attention more valuable. Because it's not given freely to everyone, it's chosen. Now think about how this changes your interactions. When you're not seeking validation, you're not attached to outcomes, you're not trying to win the conversation, you're simply present, exploring the interaction. And that removes pressure, not just from you, but from the other person as well. And when pressure is removed, people open up more naturally. Now I want to pause here and give you another simple practice. The next time you're in any interaction, especially one where you feel attraction, bring your attention to your breathing. Slow it down. Deepen it slightly. This might sound small, but your breath directly influences your nervous system. When your breathing is calm, your body follows. When your body is calm, your presence becomes grounded. And when your presence is grounded, others feel it. This is how you regulate not just yourself, but the entire interaction. Now let's explore something a little deeper, something that touches on identity. Who are you when no one is watching? Because the truth is, the energy you carry into the world is not created in social situations. It is developed in private moments. It's built in the way you speak to yourself, the standards you hold, the discipline you practice, the promises you keep or break to yourself. A man who respects himself, who trusts himself, who follows through on what he says he will do, develops an internal confidence that cannot be faked. And that confidence is quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need constant reinforcement. It simply exists. And when it exists, others feel it, even if they can't explain it. Now here's something very important to understand. Not everyone will respond positively to your presence. Some people may feel uncomfortable. Some may misinterpret your calmness as distance. Some may even project their own insecurities onto you. And that's okay. Because your goal is not to be universally liked. Your goal is to be authentically yourself, while continuing to grow and refine that self. And the right people, the ones who are aligned with your energy, will naturally resonate with you. They will feel at ease in your presence. They will be curious about you. They will want to engage, not because you forced it, but because it feels right. Now let's bring this back to attraction in a very real sense. A woman may not always approach you. She may not always express her interest directly, but if you pay attention, you'll begin to notice patterns. She positions herself closer to you. She finds reasons to be in your space. She listens more intently when you speak. These are subtle, but meaningful signals. And when you combine your grounded presence with just a small amount of initiative, a simple conversation, a calm approach, you create an opportunity for connection to form naturally. You don't need to overdo it. You don't need to perform. You simply need to show up as you are with awareness. And that awareness is what separates men who are constantly chasing attraction from those who naturally draw it in. So as you move forward, I want you to remember this. Your presence is not something to hide. It's something to understand, to refine, to align with who you truly are. Because when you do that, you don't just become attractive, you become deeply impactful. And that impact stays with people long after you've left the room. And now, as we bring all of this together, I want you to see something clearly. This idea of being intimidating is not something you need to fix. It's something you need to understand, refine, and use with intention. Because what most people label as intimidation is often just unfiltered presence meeting unprepared perception. In simple terms, you are not doing anything wrong. You are simply operating at a level of self-awareness and composure that not everyone is used to encountering. And once you truly understand that, something shifts inside you. You stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. You stop over-explaining who you are. You stop chasing reactions. And instead, you begin to move through life with a quiet certainty. Now here's where the real growth begins. Because it's one thing to have presence, but it's another to pair that presence with emotional generosity. And this is the final refinement that transforms intimidation into connection. A man who is grounded, self-assured, and emotionally controlled, but also capable of warmth, kindness, and genuine curiosity, becomes unforgettable in a completely different way. Not just admired, but deeply appreciated. Have you ever met someone who made you feel both slightly nervous and completely at ease at the same time? That's the balance. That's the sweet spot. And it comes from being able to hold your strength while also allowing your humanity to show. Now let's make this very practical. As you go about your daily life, I want you to begin practicing intentional warmth. Not forced politeness, not exaggerated friendliness, but small, real moments of human connection. When you speak to someone, really listen. When you smile, let it be genuine. When you ask a question, actually care about the answer. These are simple things, but they carry emotional weight. Because in a world where most interactions are rushed, distracted, and surface level, presence combined with sincerity stands out immediately. And this is how you soften intimidation without losing attraction. Now let's talk about something deeper, your relationship with yourself. Because everything we've explored, confidence, presence, emotional control, restraint, warmth, it all comes back to this, how you see yourself, how you speak to yourself, how you treat yourself when no one else is around. If you are constantly criticizing yourself, doubting yourself, that internal tension will eventually show up externally. But if you begin to build a relationship with yourself based on respect, patience, and honesty, that creates a foundation that no external situation can easily shake. And from that foundation, you move differently. You don't seek approval, you offer presence. You don't chase connection, you allow it. You don't force attraction, you embody it. Now I want to give you one final exercise. Something simple but incredibly powerful if you practice it consistently. At the end of each day, take a few minutes to reflect. Ask yourself, did I show up as the man I want to become today? Not perfectly, but intentionally. Did you stay composed when things didn't go your way? Did you remain present in your interactions? Did you act from confidence or from fear? This kind of reflection builds awareness, and awareness is the first step to mastery. Because the more aware you become of your patterns, the more you can refine them. And over time, these small refinements compound into a completely different presence. Now, let me say something that might shift your perspective even further. Not every connection is meant to happen. Not every person is meant to understand you. And that's okay, because your value is not determined by how many people respond to you, it's determined by how aligned you are with yourself. When you truly understand that, rejection loses its weight, silence loses its meaning, and you begin to move through life with a sense of ease that cannot be faked. Now, as you continue your journey, remember this. The goal is not to become someone else. The goal is to remove everything that is not you. The fear, the overthinking, the need for validation, the habits that keep you small. And what remains is your natural presence, your natural confidence, your natural ability to connect. And when you allow that to come forward, without forcing it, without questioning it, without trying to control how others respond, you become the kind of man who doesn't need to demand attention because your presence quietly earns it. And if something in today's conversation resonated with you, take a moment to acknowledge that. If you want to continue growing, I invite you to stay connected with me here on Mindful Senior Living. You can like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe if you feel this space supports your journey. And before we close, I also want to remind you about the 2 free guides I've created for you. They are designed to help you deepen your sense of self-control and to help you build a level of attraction that doesn't rely on the outside world, but starts from within. Find them linked below. Thank you for spending this time with me, and as you step back into your world, carry this with you. You are not too much. You are not intimidating in a negative sense. You are simply becoming a man who knows who he is, and that is rare, and that is powerful.